This is a midweek thought for Wednesday, the 3rd of March. And I trust that you might be blessed in listening. I wonder, in the midst of this coronavirus pandemic, how many people might be aware that we are only a month or so away from Easter. The fact that we couldn't meet together last Easter was something which grieved me a great deal. But here we are at the beginning of March 2021, and we are having to cope with another lockdown. We certainly hope and pray that we might be able to get our buildings open for Easter. But we must be aware that even if we do, then we will be restricted in the number of people whom we can actually have at our services. This Easter won't be normal, even although it might just be slightly better than Easter 2020. Beginning in this address and continuing in these midweek thoughts, I'd like to briefly consider some of Jesus' words when he was hanging on the cross at Calvary. And here, right at the start of this series, I'd like to think about what I've called the word of forgiveness. The word of forgiveness. The reality was that following a horribly unjust trial and the rigours of extreme torture, Jesus was hanging naked from a wooden cross. He was suffering an incredible amount of unspeakable pain. He was on display before a noisy, jeering crowd. And in this situation, while enduring a punishment which was so severe that Roman soldiers were known to cut out the tongues of their victims, Jesus uttered his first words from the cross. His words were not a cry for hatred and vindictiveness, but a prayer. We read his words in Luke 23, verse 34. Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. Centuries earlier, the prophet Isaiah had said that the Messiah would bear the sins of many and make intercession for the transgressors. And here in Jesus' prayer, we detect no anger or bitterness, no appeals for his own rescue. In the face of such terrible rejection and injustice and abuse, we hear words which are even more powerful than human cruelty. We hear the words of a prayer of forgiveness. When we think about it, this prayer was for the Roman soldiers who laughingly tormented him. It was for Pilate and for Herod, whose coldness and cowardice had brought him this sentence. It was for the wild mob who were crying out, "Crucify him." It was for his closest disciples, who were nowhere to be found, and for the most part were out of sight in these final hours of Jesus' earthly life. And the truth is that this prayer was also for you and for me. Yes, for you and for me. Let's be honest, the only thing keeping us from experiencing the storm of God's righteous wrath is the fact that Jesus covered us with the shield of his grace for that terrible day. But it was, in fact, also a glorious day, because despite enduring such great pain, Jesus prayed through that pain, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." Forgiveness is therefore possible for you and for me. I wonder if we've actually realized our part in nailing Jesus to the cross. Have we experienced the forgiveness which he died to make possible? It can be ours because of his amazing grace. In closing, can I invite you to consider the following words of Graham Kendrick? You may know these words well. Come and weep, come and mourn, for your sin that pierced him there, so much deeper than the wounds of thorn and nail. All our pride, all our greed, all our fallenness and shame, and the Lord has laid the punishment on him. Man of heaven, born to earth, to restore us to your heaven, here we bow in awe beneath your watching eyes. From your tears comes our joy, from your death our life shall spring. By your resurrection power we shall rise. And indeed, if faith in Christ is ours, then these things will be real for us. Thank you for listening. May God bless you.